Hello, this is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, and tonight I want to show you a pop-up swing card that I made. How this came to be was I'm in a card swap, and one of the events, one of the swaps that we were assigned was to make a pop-up swing card for a holiday. So I pulled out my Dove of Hope stamp set, and this is what I came up with. So the front looks like this. And then you open it and you have your greeting on this page, and then you have a pop-up that comes through the window. Now, my bird is kind of flying up in the air. If you had anything that was any more directional than the bird, it probably would look funny. The bird I can get by with because they could fly like that, I guess. And so there's what I came up with my pop-up swing card. So I decided I wanted to do a video. I'm just going to fold this back to show you how it goes back together. So I wanted to do a video, but I didn't really want to do a Christmas card. I had to do Christmas because it had to be a holiday for my swap, but I wanted to do something that wasn't Christmas for the video. So we're going to use some different papers and some different stamps, and we're going to have a different look. And then at the end, we'll be able to see how different it looks just by changing up the card stock, changing up the designer series paper used, and how we can get a totally different look. So let's get started. The stamp set that I'm going to be featuring for this is the Elegantly Set. I love this. I absolutely love this stamp set. It's got this beautiful Victorian fan look border, this beautiful flower. I love this corner. Just wonderful sayings on this. I love this set. So I wanted to use this, and the designer series paper that coordinates with this is just beautiful. So I wanted to feature that. So let me show you how we're going to put this together. The other thing that I used was the layering circles. I used the largest of the scallop and the second largest of the regular circle. And I'll show you what to do with that in just a moment. So let's talk about the cardstock. You need a piece of 8x8, and I'm using the black. Then you'll need a square that's 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that's for your sentiment, your greeting layer. You're going to need a piece of designer series paper for the inside. It's also 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. You'll need a piece for the outside, which is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And this, I just made this frame that's going to go around our window on the outside. And I did this out of the gold metallic. And so what I did is I just layered these two like this, ran them through the die cut machine, and I got this frame that we're going to be using. I'm going to keep this out because we're going to need that to cut our window and our card. And we're going to be doing some stamping on our greeting layer, and then our element that's going to show through the window, we're going to be doing that as well. So for that, you'll need just a scrap of basic white. So let's start with the card base. Let me move this other stuff out of the way, and let me bring my trimmer over. So like I said, this is 8x8, and I always struggle to get my trimmer in the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. So we're going to make a couple scores. Our first one is going to be at 4 inches. So that's going to be in half. And then we're going to turn it 90 degrees, and we're going to go in half the other way, or at 4 inches on the other one, on the other side. So score that. And then we need, in one of the squares that we've made, we need a diagonal. So what I did is I just brought this in my trimmer, and I centered the point, the diagonal points, right in my track. And I'm going to score to that middle, to 4 inches, to that middle. And you can always check it and see if you got it. I need to go just a little bit farther. There. Okay. So we're done with the score. And so now we need to make a cut on this, where this, that we just did, this diagonal score. We want to cut to the inside of it, and we're going to do maybe ½ inch, between 1/4 and ½ inch, because that's going to be a strip that we're going to need. What I want to do is I want to cut it a little bit bigger than the tear and tape. And I'm just going to eyeball it, but we're going to be using tear and tape, so I want this flap to be a little bit wider than the tear and tape. So I'm just going to eyeball this, and I'm just going to cut it. You could do this with your trimmer, but to me it was just as easy to do it with my scissors. So I'm going to cut up to that center line, and then I'm going to cut up the center line to cut this triangle out. Okay? Like that. Now, I want to go ahead and cut all the way to the center. Like that. Now, I'm just going to miter these ends so it makes it easier when we do the fold. So we just want to give it a little miter. Grab that little piece out of there. And I'm going to do the same thing on this other end. You're not going to see this flap, so it really doesn't matter. Now we just want to fold the flap, fold it up, and fold it back. And you can see mine's a little thicker in one spot, so I'm just going to trim that up. Wouldn't have to, because you're not going to see it at all. This is just to make our swing happen. Okay? All right. Now this is going to, if you think of this, you've got 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Think of it as 4 segments. You want this with the triangle cut out, that's going to be your bottom right. Okay? So now on those fold lines, let's fold the bottom up. Okay? And then let's fold the left over. So that reinforces our folds. That gets our folds in there. Now, when you're looking at this, on the back side of segment 1, that's the front. So that's going to be the front piece of your card. So we want to put some designer series paper on here. So for that, I've selected this. I love this with the gold. So we're going to put this, so again, with your triangle cut out here, here's segment 1. You're just going to flip it over, and on the back side of that is where this piece is going to go. Okay? Just like that. And then we'll be able to cut our window out of that. But we need to get this attached first, so I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Seal. And I'm just going to put some of this on the back. This paper is just very pretty. And I'm actually going to run 2 rows because I want to get close to where that cutout is going to be in the center, so I have all my edges down. Okay, so then I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to center this. There we go. And that part's done. So now we need to cut this out, okay? So I'm going to bring in my die cut machine. And depending on what machine you have, you'll know the sandwiches for your machine. So I'm just going to do this circle out of the middle. And I don't know, let me try to put this up a little bit. I don't know if you can see this, but if I try to put this in, it's too long. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to turn it this way. And when I get this where I want it, like so, I'm going to, actually I wanna go over that fold before I get it there so I don't move it when I go to do the fold. Okay, so there's where I want it. You could tack it down if you wanted to. I found I didn't need to. I'm going to fold these backwards. I'm going to bring on my plate and I'm going to run it through and cut that. I'm moving my camera. Ooh. Okay. Move the die cut machine. Okay, now it does put a ring on this other piece, but you're gonna see that you're not gonna even see that when we're done, so it doesn't really matter. So this piece you can always save for another project. It would make a great mat for your focal point on another card, so definitely don't throw that away. And I'm going to move this out of the way. So we're gonna turn this back over. You can see the ring, but we're going to put this piece of Designer Series paper right over that. Let me see what the other side, I definitely want this side. That's a beautiful pattern, but for what we're gonna be putting on top of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and mount this. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and mount it now. So I'm just going to put some Stampin' Seal on the back. And this pattern is not directional, so it doesn't matter how it goes on. You always want to consider that. And I'm going to put that on there, and I'm going to set this aside. And I'm going to bring in the piece that we are going to do our stamping on. Okay, so what I have picked out to put on this, I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus because I want to use this for that, to do this. I'm going to just put this down. I'm going to use the grid to kind of make sure my square is level, or straight, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And then I'm going to use this beautiful corner, and I want it to go right up in here, because then I'm going to bring the greeting right down here. So I'm going to start with this. I want to do it in gold, and I'm going to emboss it. So I'm going to start, let me close the lid because that's where I want it. I'm going to bring in my embossing buddy and go over this really well. And then we're going to need our Versamark ink. And I'm going to ink this up real good. And I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit of pressure. And I am going to go ahead and do it one more time just to make sure that I got all the areas. Close that and press down on it. Okay. And then we're ready to take this out. Move this out of the way. I'm going to bring in a piece of scrap paper just to collect my glitter or my embossing powder. And I'm just going to sprinkle this on here. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, I just love that. And I'm going to wipe off any that I have around the edges here. That is just beautiful. I love that design. So I'm going to put this gold back in. And while I have this out, for the inside of the card, I want to use this flower that's in the stamp set. And I want to do this in gold embossing as well. So I have just a scrap here. And I'm going to use the embossing buddy. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to come in with the Versamark. I'm going to tilt it and make sure I got good coverage on it. And it doesn't matter how I stamp this. This set does not have a coordinating die set, so I'm going to need to fussy cut it. So it doesn't matter what rotation I put this. I'm just trying to get it on here so I can emboss it. So I'm just going to put it there. Okay. And again, I'm going to sprinkle the powder on here. Set that aside. I'm going to get my stuff back in the jar. We're done with that. Now I'm ready to come in with my heat gun. And we're just going to set this embossing powder. It'll take a minute to get started because it has to heat up. But once it gets heated up, hopefully you'll see it change. Yep, that's changed. Now I'm going to bring this piece over and I see some stray gold powder. I want to get that off the edges before I do this. Isn't that just beautiful? I love that look. As soon as I saw this stamp set, I thought, oh, I gotta have that. I love it. I'm just going to check and make sure I got it all embossed. Okay, looks good. It's all glossy. I want to make sure none of it's still powder. Okay, so that's got us where we need to go. Now, while I'm just going to let that cool a minute before I add my greeting. So we're just going to need to fussy cut this. And usually what I do is I just cut around it just to make it smaller because it's easier for me to handle. And if you think about when you do a die cut, there's always that trim around it. And you want to mimic that because it's going to be, it's going to give you a better die cut look. So you leave some of the white and go as fast or as slow as you need to go and just go around this. And if, you know, if you're shooting for perfection, you might not hit that. But isn't that the point of something that's handmade? So you're just gonna go around like that. And I've got one that I already cut out ahead of time. So we're gonna be using that in our card. Now we're gonna go to this and we're going to put our greeting on here. So I'm going to bring my Stamparatus back in. And again, I'm going to use the magnets to put this, make sure I get it straight. Okay. And I'm going to figure out where I want this. This says, life has changed for you, but my love and support never will. I just thought that was just so beautiful. Figure out where I want it. I'm going to close this, and I'm just doing this with black Memento ink. So I'm going to bring that in. I'm just going to stamp it up. And what's nice about using the Stamparatus, if it doesn't stamp as dark as you want it, especially with a greeting, you can always go back over it. And I think I do want to go back over it. Well, no, I think I like it like that. Okay, so I'm going to remove these. And that's what you don't want to do with your magnets. These are very strong magnets, so you definitely want to try to keep them away from each other. If you get your fingers between them, it's going to pinch. Okay, so let me bring this back. Again, this is our bottom. So this piece is going to go up here. And I like putting this on with dimensionals. I like the dimension that you get. I like it will help hold the, when you do the swing part, it will help hold it in place. So you could use our foam adhesive strips, or you could use dimensionals. I'm just using dimensionals. And I'm just going to add these around. Just like this. Okay, and I'm just going to remove the backing. I love this tool. One of the best inventions. You can keep all your pieces together, your little backing pieces together, and it just makes it easier. I have less getting all over my floor doing it this way. Okay, so now we're just going to go in and we're going to center this. Just like that. And I'm going to flip this over and we're going to glue our frame right on there. And for that, I'm going to use the liquid glue. And so I'm just going to get it started, okay? And I'm just gonna flip this over, and you don't need to make it solid. I'm just going to put some dots around it. You don't need to get every little piece of it. It's going to hold it. Okay, I'm going to turn this over. And the thing with the liquid glue is you do have a little bit of time to move it where you want it for your frame. There. And then I'm just going to take my finger and go around the edges to make sure I have it. We're done with that. Okay. So now all we have left is to add this, to add our adhesive onto this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tear and tape and we want to put it on the back side of the flap. So I'm just going to flip it over. I'm going to bring in my tear and tape. And this is why I wanted to make it just a little bit bigger than my tear and tape, so that it would fit on there. So I'm just going to bring this on here. And press that down all the way to the end. Tear that off. Okay. I got a little piece there that I'm going to add. Okay. And you just want to go over that a little bit so that you can get the adhesive stuck to the flap. And I'm just going to peel this up and we're ready to adhere it. So you want to go back to our orientation, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you want to fold the bottom up, and then you want to fold the left over the right and push down. And that adheres your, it gets your flap adhered. So then you can open it up and you can kind of go over it with your hands to press it down. And there you have your pop-up swing. So to close it, you take this piece, because we put this on dimensionals, it serves as a, kind of a helper to hold it in place. So you just pull this out from under that and you close it up. Just like that. Now, the only thing left to do is put our piece in the middle, and I'm definitely going to use dimensionals for that. But what you want to keep in mind is that when this is open, so let's open it back up. When this is open, this is how the card sits. So if I put it like this, it's going to be right side up here. And I don't know if I can hold it and do this at the same time. And that's how it would be on the front. So I think I want to kind of more go like this. I want it kind of at an angle. So it just depends on what you're using for your decoration. So I'm going to bring the dimensionals back in. I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back. Okay. All right. And I'm going to close this up. Remember, so this piece is the top when it's open. So if you think of it that way, that's going to be your top. So however you lay this in there, that's going to be the orientation that you have. So I like it about like that. And because this, with all the gold, I thought this was fancy enough that I didn't need to add a lot extra to it. You could certainly add bows or rhinestones or anything like that. But I didn't, because I thought with all this gold, I just wanted to let it speak for itself. So here's the outside of our card. And when we open it up, there's our swing. And you can display it like that, and then we have the beautiful graphic here. Life has changed for you, but my love and support never will. Just a beautiful card. Who wouldn't be thrilled to get that? So that's our pop-up swing card. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you will join me again soon. Check out my Facebook page and group, and I hope you'll craft with me soon. Thank you.